Now, the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion trial has officially kicked off. The trial started just the other day and is currently at the time of me recording this on day 2. I want to go through some info regarding the trial, what's going on, what's being said, my perspective on it and whatnot. Before we get there, first of all, I think most people are familiar with this entire story right here. Tory Lanez is of course the man who's pointed out as the trigger man in this shooting that allegedly harmed Megan Thee Stallion. This incident occurred back in July 2020. Tory, Meg, Kelsey Nicole, Megan's friend, or should I say former friend, and a bodyguard were riding around in an Escalade in Los Angeles when an argument popped off inside that car. Next thing you know, shots go off. The LAPD responds to a shooting that went down in the area that fit the description of the SUV they were in. Police eventually arrive to the scene. Megan tells the officers at the scene that she had cut her feet on glass. They take her to the hospital, and then after that is when the story changes and Meg tells the alleged truth. Tory Lanez shot her. So that's a very compressed version of the story. As for the trial itself, it kicked off the other day, so let's go through a couple things.
Hey, Megan, why you lying on that boy? Why you lying? Is it the truth or a lie?
I don't know about you, but I definitely agree with the assessment the fella in the back made. Meg does look good in that purple, dope. She rocking that purple. She look good in that purple. So one of the people who's been in the focal point of this case is Kelsey Nicole, Meg's former best friend. They had a fallout after this entire incident. So the prosecutors in this case made an opening statement about Kelsey Nicole, essentially stating that she's gonna testify that she saw Meg getting shot by Tory. This did end up happening, but there's a little plot twist because she actually refused to testify, but we'll get to that. Some text messages were also shared by the prosecution. The text exchange was between Kelsey Nicole and Meg's bodyguard. It was allegedly 5 minutes after the shooting went down. Help, Tory shot Meg, 911. That's what the text messages allegedly said. Tory Lanez's lawyer made some statements about this case in court and, he essentially said that this entire case is about jealousy. Regarding that, it has now been confirmed that Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion were actually dating around that time, and that's something the prosecution opened up about. About this, by the way, Meg did actually say that she wasn't in a romantic relationship with Tory Lanez during an interview from earlier this year. So contradicting statements, something that doesn't make her look too good. Tory was allegedly dating Meg and Kelsey as well. So the jealousy part, there's some validity to it. The argument in the car that eventually led to what happened could have been sparked by the fact that Meg and her friend were both, sleeping with the same guy and they're all in a tight space together. Tory's lawyer at one point also spoke about the apology text. If you don't know what I'm talking about these messages right here that Megan Thee Stallion posted on her Instagram some time back. These texts were from Tory, and as you can see, Tory said, "Meg, I know you probably never gonna talk to me again, but I genuinely want you to know I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart, and I was just too drunk. Nonetheless, shit should have never happened, and I can't change what I did. I just feel horrible." Meg on a caption of the screenshot post said the following: "Lie your way out of this. If you ain't do shit what you was apologizing for. The lawyers got your phone records and mine, all your texts. They got you recorded on the jail phone talking to Kelsey, apologizing, begging us not to talk." So the narrative after this was that Tory Lanez was apologizing for shooting Meg. Tory's lawyer actually spoke on this and said that he wasn't apologizing for shooting her. He was apologizing for essentially having sex with both Meg and her friend. That sounds about right from where I stand, because in no way, shape, or form do these texts look like a confession of that kind. It just looks like Tory gravely messed up by doing something, and now here he is apologizing to someone he cares about. By the way, the prosecution on the first day of the trial ended up playing a recording of 5 gunshots for the jurors, which is alleged to be the shots Tory fired at Meg. The prosecution also revealed that Megan will be testifying that Tory Lanez shouted, "Dance, bitch," as he was popping off shots. Tory's lawyer ended up responding to this opening statement by the prosecution by saying that Meg was the only person who heard Tory saying this. There's also a witness at the scene that's outside of everyone who's involved. The witness was a neighbor who lived nearby. Apparently this person witnessed the incident from their balcony. They said that they saw a muzzle flash, a gun going off next to the non-female victim, Kelsey. This testimony obviously favors Tory heavy, because if the muzzle went off next to someone else, that obviously means that he didn't pull the trigger, right? This testimony might as well not exist though, since the prosecution stated that they won't be calling in the neighbor as a witness because he apparently gave a lot of conflicting statements, which would make him a not so credible witness. The prosecution is also going to call in Megan's bodyguard as a witness. They're saying that Tory made a call from jail essentially confessing to her bodyguard that he shot her. Along with this recorded jail call, the text messages I showed you earlier are being used as a way to validate the evidence. The prosecution explicitly stated that Tory told the bodyguard that he did in fact fire the gun. Also want to talk about this piece of info right here. Kelsey Nicole, Meg's friend who was in the car that night, she was actually in court and a couple interesting things happened. First of all, Kelsey Nicole was actually granted immunity in this case by the prosecution. If you don't know what that means, essentially what it means is the witness in question, Kelsey, now has protection, immunity, from having the prosecution use her statements against her in the court of law. Now, why would they do this? Well, she is after all a very important witness in his case. They want to find out what she knows by any means, so they offer immunity, which in return helps them build their case more efficiently because now somebody's willing to talk, right? Now, the kicker is that Kelsey Nicole didn't actually talk. Say word? Say word. She didn't talk. So Kelsey was asked about Tory Lanez on a stand. District Attorney Kathy Ta essentially asked her about Tory threatening to shoot her while they were in that car before Meg hopped out the Escalade, and Kelsey did not want to answer that question. According to the court transcripts, she even at one point said, "Do I have to answer that?" in reference to what I just told you about. Sometime after that, she privately consulted with her attorney, went back on a stand again, and refused to answer any questions about Tory Lanez threatening to shoot her. And I think that's very interesting. When she was asked why she didn't want to answer that question, she said, "It's just, I don't know." We're going to know the verdict by the end of the trial, which that looks like it's going to be by the end of this month, actually. Right now, despite the fact that the trial has kicked off, we do have what we had in the beginning, which is a very convoluted story. There's been a lot of emphasis on the romantic relationship aspect between everybody involved. You know, Meg was dating Tory while he was sleeping with her and her best friend. And you know what? I do actually agree with the Meg's pussy is not on trial perspective, because what does that have to do with anything? I don't know, and I don't really care. As for this, by the way, I do think Meg's pussy being on trial has a lot to do with how guys in general feel about women who choose to do that, fuck multiple guys. Because Meg was, if I'm not mistaken, dating DaBaby at some point as well. So I think this aspect being in a focus has a lot to do with that. I mean, it ain't too uncommon for men to use women's sexual past against them, especially if they got a little taste of the ass and they're not getting a taste of it currently. Sorry to break it to you, brother, but your girl be having multiple relations too. And that might have just happened while y'all were together. Sorry for that heart attack, but it's true. Anyway, picking up from where I left off, what does matter though is the fact that Meg did make some contradicting statements that turned out to be false. I think that should be taken into account because, to be fair, I mean, Meg has made a bunch of statements about what happened that don't make any sense, and none of those things have made her look all that credible to a lot of people. And this is why I don't really fault people for believing that Tory is innocent. I mean, Meg has made it extremely easy for people to believe that. All the talking on social media she's been doing, it ain't so hard to poke holes in the story she's told, especially since she's made so many contradicting statements. Her getting cut by glass being one of them, and then suddenly, you know what, I was actually shot. Meg's reasoning for that contradiction, by the way, was, well, let's hear what she said.
As soon as the police tell us all get out the motherfucking car, the police is really aggressive. You think I'm about to tell the police that we, niggas, us black people, got a gun in the car? You want me to tell the laws that we got a gun in the car so they can shoot all of us up? I'm scared. It's a fucking helicopter over us and some more shit. When I tell the laws somebody got a gun in this car and this shot me, so I can get shot, you can get shot, she can get shot, he can get shot. I ain't tell the police what happened immediately right then because I didn't want to die.
I don't know how much weight that's going to hold during this trial though, because they're just trying to get to the bottom line here, right? Who shot who and why did it happen? That's all that matters. As for some general thoughts about this case, definitely keep in mind that all parties here have an agenda of their own. There's a lot at stake for both Megan and Tory here. Meg's reputation directly depends on Tory's guilty verdict. Imagine how bad it's going to look if Tory ends up being declared innocent, which, all things considered, is really not too far-fetched of a reality. So if Tory Lanez is not held culpable, hell is going to come crashing down on Meg. Even if what I just said ends up being a reality, I don't think there's going to be a lot of, or should I say, any real consequences on Meg's end. Sure, there's going to be a lot of people, mostly men, who already made up their mind that Tory was innocent since day one, you know, saying things like, these women are liars, here's the proof, I know Tory was innocent. To that I say, Megan Thee Stallion is one woman, and she obviously does not represent how the majority of women would act in a story like this. Also, Meg isn't your average woman. She's a famous, public, well-known, rich, and mighty fucking thick figure in the music industry who has a lot to lose. She's not your average woman, so her behavior in this entire case is not the behavior of the average woman. Her actions have nothing to do with women in general because she's a woman. Let's just make that very clear. On the other hand, I did say that Meg wouldn't be facing any real consequences. If we take a look at Tory Lanez, however, he's facing some serious time. 22 years and 8 months in prison on top of possibly getting deported to the 6. Yeah, Tory is someone who has a lot at stake here, because he ends up guilty, that's his freedom we're talking about. That ends up being the case, well, obviously I won't be feeling sorry for Tory because that means that he did it. Does the law always get it right? Absolutely not, but does the law always get it wrong? Most of the time they don't. especially when there's an abundance of or lack of evidence. I really don't like how people on both sides have jumped the gun on this story. I think the majority of people who've been following this entire thing since it went down and know how to stay objective can say with confidence, hey, we don't actually know what happened. Keep in mind that everyone in this story has something to lose, whether that be freedom, reputation, or whatnot. Making up your mind and picking sides in a story where nobody has been telling the truth since day one, I think is a very foolish thing to do. That's setting yourself up for failure, because nobody in this bitch has been honest since day one. Okay, let's just keep it a stack. Right now, that's where we're at with this Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion trial. As we hear some more testimonies, I think that's going to add a lot to figuring out the truth. Did Tory Lanez actually shoot Megan Thee Stallion? Did Megan Thee Stallion in fact lie? What happened on that very night of July 2020 when Tory Lanez allegedly shot Megan? Find out on the next episode of me talking about this shit, okay? I'll be talking about this, so stay tuned. Stay tuned. Anyway, like this video just for that little edit. Don't be stingy now. Come on, dude. Any thoughts on what we talked about? Like you know at this point, the trial for the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion case kicked off the other day. There's a lot of info coming out by the 2nd, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. So do you have any thoughts on some of the updates we talked about? Curious to hear what you have to say, and yeah, have a good motherfucking day. Okay, have a damn good, you better have a good day, okay? You better have a good day, okay? I'm out. Peace.